Yo, what's up, guys? It's Terrell here from Terrell Gang. It's been a little bit, but I wanted to talk about Black Panther because I saw Black Panther technically this morning, but last night. But I kind of wanted to discuss it because, and just kind of to be honest, I'm going to start with a kind of a backstory before I actually get into the review of the film. For me personally, because Black Panther, as you probably have heard, has been breaking records, has been doing insanely well, and I'm glad for it. But I wanted to talk about kind of my fears and issues and how it kind of leads into my opinion of the film and where I was coming from. For me, as a black person, and a black person who's partially tired of hearing the whole every problem that black people have is white people's fault, I was very scared that this film was going to do insanely. I wasn't really insanely worried about the film doing well. I was worried about the film doing well for the wrong reason. Because the wrong reason for this film to do well is because it's black focused, which is a terrible thing. A lot of people be like, because, and granted, this is what's essentially happened to an extent, where everyone's like, "We got one," and I'm like, "Well, got one what?" It's not like this is not the first black film. This is not the first time Black Panther's been in a Marvel film. Black Panther and it wasn't like this was the first black Marvel character on the big screen. You had characters like Falcon in the Captain America. Did you forget my boy? You act like he was like, "We got one," which I guess what they're really referring to is our black superhero, black focused superhero movie, right? And I'm like, but this isn't, and it's not like black movies haven't been around that have not only been, your standard generic fare, like a lot of them are, but also some higher quality ones. The ones that could get borderline nominated for Oscars or at least be considered on the top or echelon of movies, right? So it's not like this thing is really a major thing other than, I guess you could say, it's the first black-focused superhero film, I guess. Even though I feel like that's going out of your way. But like I said, I didn't want this film to do well just because of that. Just because it's a black film. Just because, no, it ain't even a black film. Just because it's a superhero film that has a bunch or is predominantly black. To me, that's annoying as shit to hear about a film doing well, about people sitting there going, "You should go see it because you go represent your brothers and sisters." No, you go see it because you're interested in the film, or because the film is good, or because you want to see the film, not because it has a bunch of black people in it. It's like that's like the dumbest reason. To me, that doesn't help anything. You're not, especially and unfortunately, I think that's part of the reason why this movie's been so overhyped. It's sold insanely well, made back its money. It'd be stupid not to release a sequel at this point. But I honestly think that the movie is selling more because of the blackness than it should because of the merits of the film. Because if you were asking me as someone who watched the film, as a film goer, as someone who's critiquing movies, Black Panther is just kind of alright. I don't think Black Panther has some elements about it that are better than other films and better than other Marvel films specifically. But I don't think Black Panther is really like amazing. Like, not the way it's been selling, you would think is one of the best fucking movies of all time. I honestly think Thor Ragnarok was more enjoyable personally. The reason why I think people are giving Black Panther on top of the unfortunate black thing reason, I think part of the reason is also because there's nothing insanely wrong with the film. Like in other films, sometimes in other Marvel films, it's usually like this really glaring issue that just fucks up the film, or it just makes a big nasty dent in the film. Black Panther is a film that doesn't really have like a really nasty thing that just fucks up the film. It just has a bunch of small things, in my opinion, that kind of stop it from being amazing. The first thing, and the thing that I think is the most controversial, is, and this will have spoilers in it, so if you don't want spoilers in your Black Panther review, you've been warned. I'll probably put it in the title too. It's Killmonger. Or Killmonger, I forgot how you pronounce it. I know it's not his actual name, I just know that's a nickname for him. Who I think is one of the better parts of the film, because he's and I think part of the reason why this film gets a lot of praise is because of him. Because he's a villain who isn't really a villain, and he's like, well, I will definitely say he's one of the better Marvel villains we've had. He is definitely one of the better Marvel villains he's had. If nothing else, that automatically puts Black Panther at least okay, because the villains in Marvel films range from being like really fucking mediocre or okay to like fucking bad. But because the rest of the film is okay, some people are willing to take that shit. Depends on the film, mind you. Iron Man 3. Iron Man in general has bad villains. Iron Man to me was never known for its villains, but sorry, my fan is over here. Anyways, I think Killmonger is probably one of the better parts, purely because he's more of a product of Wakanda, and and if nothing else, I really fucking appreciate it. That was the way that's the way they wanted to handle it. That the problem you're having now with him is Wakanda's fault. It's because of the previous generation. I think the biggest problem with this film is the fact that that no one really grows in this film, I guess is the best way to describe it. They got like 3 or 4 or 5 different plot points going on, but none of them really get fully fleshed out and shit. I'll give you an example. T'Challa, Black Panther, has like three story plot points going on at the same time. The first one is how he's afraid that he can't live up to, that he doesn't want to be without his father, and he can't really hack it as a king. The problem is this isn't really addressed long enough for it to really be a thing. The second one would be Wakanda needs to stop hiding and needs to expose itself to the world, because there are people that you could be saving, but you can't save them because you only get involved with things that involve Wakanda. That's going on, but to me that's not really his thought process, because the argument is, well, Wakanda's never done that, why should we start now? And it's more of Nikela. Is that what her name was? I think it was Nikela. His ex-girlfriend, which gets into another issue I have, was like, this is what I want to do. This is why I think we should do this. And his father was against it, and he's against it, I guess. And see, that kind of gets in. I honestly don't think Black Panther has that much of a personality in this fucking film. I think his best sequences is when he's fucking around with his sister. I think those are the best sequences in the movie for him, because those are the best moments. But the fucking, I think Wakanda should expose themselves, but we're still trying to keep secrets, and it's like this weird back and forth between like tradition and progress. That's what they're going for, but it's not really pushed. It's not really pushed as much, because on top of that, you have the whole Killmonger, which is the third thing going on, which is that he's finding out that his dad wasn't perfect because he looked up to his father. Hence why we had the whole thing and that's why that's how the first plot point got dropped about him living up to his father's expectations. Because the other plot point about how his father wasn't perfect and how his father did some shit which caused him problems later on after that motherfucker died. And it's like, okay, that's like 3 different things going on, and I don't think any of them gets fully explored. And which unfortunately to me means that at the end of it, because here's the thing, it's almost feeling like they're doing like, considering this is the first Black Panther film, it trips me out. It feels like those are like things you could have put in like 2 like separate films. You didn't need them all to be in the same film. Like the first film could have been about living up to your father's expectations as a king. The second film could have been about whether or not we should keep following tradition, or if we should move forward as a people and expose ourselves and get out there and help people when we have the ability to help them, instead of just hiding in the shadows and shit. And then the third part could have been, don't let that your father wasn't perfect, and you don't have to just not only, kind of correlating back to the quote-unquote first film, not only being able to handle the role of king, but also being like, I'm going to be better than my father and not do this fuckery. You don't have to throw all 3 of these in the same film, because it felt like that's what they were doing. Like, I think, what was his name? Claw? I think Claw would have worked as a fine villain for the first film. I actually like Claw as a villain. I know that Killmonger technically has the more interesting story, but I think Claw was very entertaining. Every time I saw him on screen, I had fun seeing him on screen, which is why I'm disappointed that he's not going to be that's it for him. Like, I feel like the way he was dispatched in this film, I was like, you didn't need to do that. And then you also got this weird plot point going on with, I honestly forget her name. His like royal guard who's the one that tells him don't freeze and shit. Like, it's another one of those, she's married to one of his, like, I guess, friends. One of his childhood friends, maybe? I'm not sure. One of the like lower tribe leaders and shit. And there's this plot point going on where, like, when Killmonger takes over, he's like wants to rock with him about, oh, this is how you get things done. Because T'Challa, you said you would get things done like your dad did, and just like your dad, you come up short. And then, so what? That was enough to kind of work towards this whole Killmonger, yeah, I think we should start curing the revolution and taking down the oppressors, because there are thousands of other kids, other people like me, who went out there and suffered. And then you got this weird husband and wife dynamic going on when they fight later on in the film, and which I want to just address this. This is the other thing that irks the shit out of me. They keep bringing up these little details that don't fucking mean anything in the grand scheme of things. For example, oh, me and Nikita used to date and we're ex-boyfriend and girlfriend. Why does that matter? You literally it literally adds nothing to the story that you used to date at all. Because you're still having on-screen tension and chemistry and shit. You're kind of into each other. It's still the same. Like, nothing changes that you know that they used to date. If anything, it makes even less sense because the scene they use about the don't freeze, and then you watch the full sequence, he still freezes. It's like, you guys used to date. Why? What are you freezing for? You used to date. You probably done way more with that girl than just talk to her. So the fuck, why are you freezing all of a sudden just because what? You hadn't seen her in a minute? The sequence makes even less sense. Also, it's like that little, which gets into the humor issue with Black Panther in itself. But it's like, I looked at it and I went, well, that didn't mean anything. The same thing about those two, the other two being married. The tribe leader and the guard. It was like, okay. That doesn't really add anything to the story. That once again, it could have been romantic interest and you would have had the same setup. There's no reason to have them be married. It just seems kind of fucking unnecessary. And then they throw in this thing with Nikita and that guard talking about, I can't leave because this is my duty for the royal guard. And I'm like, that plot point doesn't even really need to be in the film. Did you do things for your heart do you do things because of what you believe in your heart or because you serve the royal guard? And I'm like, what? Why is that in this film? And that doesn't really go anywhere. They use these it's like adding all these little fucking extra little things that like would be cool if they led anywhere and if they really meant anything, but they don't. So it's like extra time just wasted on fuck shit. I don't get it. To me, it just wasted a bunch of time. I honestly think this film's biggest problem is that it fucking adds in a bunch of shit that it could have used for sequels. Like, what is the next film going to be about him? He's now king. He's now taking his crown as king. So what now? I feel like they kind of blew their load on the first film, almost like they were scared that there was never going to be a sequel or anything. So we're like, well, fuck it, we'll get in as much as we can. But the film kind of ends up being like whatever, which kind of gets into the comedy thing I was going to bring up earlier. This movie isn't what I would consider funny. It's probably one of the lesser funny films in general for Marvel. And then you got like the weird dated memes and shit. Like at one point his sister goes, "What are those?" And everyone's like, bruh, what? 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 Out of everything you could have said, you got this girl up here saying, "What are those? What are those?" And he's talking about sandals. Now, like I said, I enjoy the banter between the brother and sister because it's like the best depiction of T'Challa throughout the whole fucking film. And it's just like, bruh, what are those? And granted, it's one line. It's the only time it happens. It's whatever. Then they do the whole thing where they kind of have a squad like every Marvel film does. The squad in this film It's all right. I feel like the white CIA agent being added was literally just thrown in for the fuck of it, because I don't think he gets to do as much, or he's not even expanded upon as he should have been, which is kind of the other issue. The other characters don't really get to shine much in terms of having arcs. Like, Nikita's literally the exact same from when she starts to when she ends. I love Wakanda, but I'm all about helping people from other countries because I can't stand seeing others suffer. Okay. That's exactly the way you were in the beginning. There's no arc for you, so you're irrelevant. Your sister, irrelevant. There's no arc for her. Even the CIA agent, you're irrelevant. There's no fucking arc for you. The soldier has the dumb, do you stand by your country or do you stand by your heart? Which comes like halfway through the fucking film. And once again, well, you know what that amounts to? Oh, when the shit starts hitting the fan, the Black Panther comes back with his own squad to come kick some ass. She goes, "You are not our king," and then stops and poses and is about to fight him. And I'm like, so that's the major sequence? Is that out of all that dumb little line, I now stand against the king because the true Black Panther is here. It's like that. It's like these dumb little fucking things that don't really add anything. I honestly think the biggest problem with this film is that it adds in too many plot points and elements that could have been used for sequels or like in a better way, so it doesn't, instead of like just focusing on one thing. Like, I really wish the film didn't even acknowledge the whole, like, I don't know, the way the film kind of pushes the whole, with T'Challa, he becomes king officially at the beginning of the film. And like, it's a good way of showing off the film and its traditions and its customs, but we don't really get the full, like, scope of all of that. They're like, we get an element of it, and we get a little bit more of it with his sister and all that stuff, which is the other thing. It kind of contradicts the whole thing about him being like more traditional and old fashioned, like his dad was, where his dad was like, "There's like, you don't change. That's just Wakandan policy, that we don't get involved in other people's problems." But then like the guy who challenges him in the beginning for his kingship, it's like, you have our fucking technology department being run by a child, which is his sister. I hit my fucking fan again. And I'm like, so he's not like he's against change. So I don't understand the whole, oh, but I'm kind of resistant. I'm like everything for him, it was like, I'm kind of resistant to the idea of us getting involved and exposing ourselves to the world. I'm kinda. And I'm like, it's kind of fucking dumb. Especially because of the sequence he has with his father the second time he sees him, where he's like, "Why did you leave him?" "I chose my country. Before I chose my country over the child." And it's like, well, this is your fucking fault. And I'm not going to sit here and die when you created this problem that we now have to deal with. I wish there was more of a conversation between him and Killmonger, though. I feel like that would have been so much better. Because I feel like with that kind of, when you have that kind of villain, a person who's just who just got fucked over and just has a disdain for the world in general, specifically the downtrodden and shit, like, cause he, like, Michael B. Jordan has some good lines here, but I don't think there's enough dialogue between the two to really make them hit as hard. Like at the end where he's like, it's like, what, you want to heal me so you can lock me up in jail? It's like, no, I'd rather die. Like he viewed dying as more freedom than living in a world being enslaved by the quote-unquote overseer. But they don't have that conversation. They barely talk, and I'm like, fuck. There's like a little bit of it, and I'm like, man, that would have been so much better. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the film never goes the extra step for me to make it go, this was fucking amazing. It just, no. So that's just my opinions. I don't think it's a bad film, and I think it deserves a sequel. I don't think it deserves all this insane amount of praise it's getting because it's the first black film, which was the one thing I did not want the film to suffer from. And I hate it. I hate that that's going to be a thing. And it's also just a bad misrepresentation of the film. The film is good. The film deserves to do well. The film deserves a sequel. The film does not deserve to be praised as like the best Marvel film or one of the best Marvel films of all time. It's only slightly, it's about average, a little bit above average, I would say. And And it's only particularly because of the villain. The villain's what kind of elevates it. Because, like I said, Black Panther himself, what is his personality? What's his personality? He kind of gets nervous around Nikita when they first see each other after a little bit, even though they've already dated. He cracks jokes with his sister and he cares about his family. Okay, that's kind of generic traits. I don't fucking know. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. That's just how I feel, personally. And, yeah, this has been the Vlogs of Game for your boy Terrell, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace. Ho, 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 ho. And for the sake of it, Wakanda forever! Oh, I didn't want to do it.